Hi, Misha here, and it's about that time of year again when we do an AK list. And this time we're going to do the top 6 frequently asked AK questions for 2023. In some ways, this has been a rather uneventful year, but in other ways, we've seen some pretty significant changes, or rumors of significant changes coming. And that's what a lot of the questions I get have been about. Some questions come from Patreons. You can go click the link and check that out if you'd like to participate. And others are starting to come in from live streams as we begin doing those. So if you'd like to participate in either way, that'd be great. And at the very least, if you could, please like, share, and subscribe here. That helps kind of towards the end of the year. With that, we'll get away from using the AK rack as background and get into the individual questions. And I can't promise I will have definitive answers for all of them, but I will do my best. Number 6. What's the deal with parts kits? What's going on? What's going to happen? What should I do? Let me begin by saying I do not have a crystal ball. I do not know the future any better than you do, and I really don't know what's going on internally at Customs, the ATF, better than you do either. The only thing I can say is I heard way back in late spring, early summer, from a reliable source in the industry, not a forums member, but actually in the industry, that the ATF was reappraising the way they demand that parts kits be demilled. Specifically looking at the trunnion and the gas system. So I have the Asian contract here from Atlantic Firearms, because this is a really good example of a parts kit that could be severely impacted if these new criteria are actually put into place. This already has a US receiver. Having the original receiver cut-up's been a thing for a long time. Originally, saw cut was fine, and then they specified torch cut in at least 3 places and not in straight lines. And then in 2005, they said that barrels had to be dismantled, so this has a US barrel. I'm only mentioning this because it shows you how reevaluating how parts kits have to be demilled has happened many times in the past. And I will say that the Second Amendment really doesn't protect us, because when it comes to imports, when it comes to customs, we have very few rights, and the government has very wide discretion. So I do believe it that they are considering having the trunnion and the gas system, be it the block or the tube or the piston, cut up. If that occurs, it ends the parts kit game, because what's left is essentially the furniture and a few other bits and bobs, not just with AKs, but anything else. I do think this is plausible and could happen. And if it did for something like this, you lose your trunnion, which is unique on a lot of guns. The Russian guns come to mind. If you lost your gas block, that's actually a unique part to these Asian contract guns, as well as others. You can kind of hide a US barrel and even a US receiver to some extent, but it would add immense expense to make a new trunnion and gas block, especially if you wanted to make them to original specifications. So yes, it would drive up costs and make it less effective. That's what I've heard. You've heard it too. As of recording this video, I don't think anything is for sure. What can we do about it? What should we do about it? If it comes to pass, there's probably not much we can do. This isn't the kind of thing that's likely to go to court and be challenged in court and win in court. Again, imports are different than domestic. Probably nothing will happen. Who knows? Maybe it will. But I would say, if you've been eyeing a parts kit or a gun like this built from a parts kit, now's a good time. The market's slow, prices are coming down, especially right before Black Friday. If nothing happens, well, you got a gun or a kit you always wanted. Great. If something does happen, well, then you're going to feel like you made a very smart move. So it's almost a win-win. The only caveat I would say, don't go out and buy a bunch of parts kits if you didn't already want them. Don't go overboard. Don't panic buy, please. But, yes, if something was already in your wish list, on your want list, now would probably be a pretty good time. If nothing else, surplus parts kits are always the here today, gone tomorrow thing. So, I'm sorry for this. I wish I could tell you nothing was going to happen, but I can't. But I've heard it too, and it is very concerning. And if that happens, that's the end of the AK kit game. Number 5. Is 7.62x39 as a cartridge dead? Should I sell my 7.62x39 guns? Or should I not buy one if I'm looking into it? What is the future of this round in America as we get into the next year? With this answer, I can be much more optimistic and upbeat than the last one. And to help bring home the point, I brought up my Galil Ace in 7.62x39. This cartridge isn't going anywhere. How many rifles, even pistols, fire this cartridge in America? You have millions of AKs, millions of SKSs, and millions of other guns in kind of a miscellaneous category like the Ace or the Ruger Mini 30. Even a good number of bolt actions. Heck, I even have a Chinese reworked Arasaka chambered for 7.62x39. No, it has gained prominence in this country, to some extent replacing the old 30-30 round. People even use it for hunting. So no, I'm not worried about 7.62x39 going away. Don't worry about selling your guns. I feel pretty confident in that. Also, mags, there's tons of mags for it in the country and more coming. It's kind of hit that peak in America where someone will always supply the cartridge. Be it domestic, Palmetto State is supposedly tooling up to make some, or foreign. So many nations manufactured this round. Certainly more than Russia, Ukraine, and nearby. So someone will make it. The question is, how long will there be a drought in the market, and what will the cartridge cost once supplies return? One simple, unassailable fact of 2023, prices on everything have risen, and that will include 7.62x39. This will no longer be a 15-20 cent cartridge. It'll most likely never be that cheap again. What will it be? I don't know. I know with the Palmetto State, I was told that it won't be cheap. And when questioning how much, low end, maybe 35 cents around, high end, nearly 50 cents around. That's utter speculation. No one knows until it actually happens. This is just how it is. But at least it will be available. And let's be honest, every other cartridge, at least nearly every other one, has also gone up. So it'll still be on the less expensive end, comparing to like 308, what have you. So yes, I am not worried about it. It's a popular round here. It'll remain popular. It just won't remain as cheap. So do with that information as you will. But also say that if you have a stockpile, just be a little more conservative. Don't stop shooting it entirely, but instead of, say, shooting 300 rounds in a day, shoot 200. And if you don't have a stockpile, look for good deals, but don't go crazy and overpay. Be patient, wait for a decent deal to come along. And that's all I have to say about that. Number 4. Should I get into 5.45 by 39, the AK-74 platform? 5. Yeah, surprisingly, the question about 5.45 has come up a few times in the recent weeks. It does from time to time. Okay, if you already own the cartridge, magazines, rifles for it, personally, I'm not selling mine. I think it's a fun round. I never bought it as a daily driver. It was always a curiosity, kind of the other side's small caliber, high velocity round. That's fine. However, unless you just have the money, time, and really have the interest, if so, that's understandable. But if you're being more objective and financially, I would not get into it now. The cartridge, unlike 760 by 39, is not very prolific throughout the world. Most nations that did adopt it in the 80s very quickly dismissed it in the 90s, early 2000s. Romania still uses it, but they're trying to get rid of it and have actually started replacing it, really only leaving Ukraine and Russia primary users. And, well, that situation is not going to get us ammo. And making 5.45 isn't as simple as making 7.62. 7.62 is based on a 30 caliber bullet. 5.45 is its own thing, and not quite 22 caliber. So that, and considering of what limited interest this round would be, I don't think there will be mass production of this round. I think its heyday in America was from about 2009 to 2013, when a lot of surplus mags, ammunition tins, parts kits, and even guns came in. It was like a lot of surplus stuff, a bit of a flash in the pan, and now it's kind of returning to more of a curiosity collector's era. Could be wrong on that, but we haven't seen a resurgence, even with some U.S. companies making AK-74 types. It just doesn't seem feasible, and most importantly, good God, the prices on the magazines, the ammo, and the guns have gone way up, and it just doesn't seem a good place to go. Whoa. 7.62 by 39, when it came to America, kind of filled the niche, an intermediate 30 caliber round. Stubby, relatively light recoil, but kind of a determined round. 5.45 by 39, again, I really enjoy shooting it. It's a lot of fun. But what does it do that 5.56 doesn't do? Now, don't break out the numbers. I'm not talking fractions and all this, but I mean in general terms. The fact is that 5.56 223 has the U.S. market locked down. And as a result, many more types and variations and styles of bullets, from self-defense to target, match grade, are available. 5.45 variant ammunition has always been limited in America. So even if it returns, you're just not going to get quite the wide range of ammunition. If you get one of these, I'm not saying you shouldn't necessarily, but if you do, get into these for the right reason, for curiosity, for Cold War collectability. Don't get into one thinking you're going to replace your 5.56 or even your 7.62 by 39 gun with it. You're not going to find the ammunition, the parts, the magazines, the level of support, and there frankly aren't that many guns even today available for this cartridge. So, just my 2 cents. People ask, but no, unless you just really have a need, I think the time to get a 5.45 has passed. That is, of course, barring a really good deal popping up. Hard to say no to one of those. Number 3. What is the best 5.56 NATO 223 AK on the market? Which one should I buy? Here I go. Contrary to 5.45, today is actually a really good time to get into a 5.56 223 AK. And which one? Well, people have asked for years, and my answer really has not changed. The FB Radom Beryl M1. Well, mine is, of course, the older Archer 01. But same gun, same factory. Just imported a decade apart, and by different companies. Why this gun? Because this was based on a military rifle, the Archer / Beryl M1 being semi-auto only. This was based on a rifle that was built to fire this cartridge from the ground up for a military. This was not done for a commercial market. This was not done as a quick and dirty conversion of another design from, say, an AK-74 platform. Everything was built from the ground up. That's one. For another, it has about as good of a rail mount system as you're going to find on a Kalashnikov with this POPC style. It also has modern furniture available and an 18-inch barrel instead of 16, cold hammer forged chrome lined, 1 in 9 twists, so it'll handle 55 grain all the way up to about 69 tops. And these are actually capable of very good accuracy in general. And finally, they have oversized controls, including the mag release, that kind of thing. We've talked about it. The only thing I would say with these, if you buy one, buy mags now. That's the little bit of the Achilles heel of the 223 AK, is there's not a standard magazine like there is for the AK-47 AKM. And these magazines are available brand new for about $30, sometimes cheaper if you buy in bulk. Get the mags now. These will work well. Other mags can be made to fit with different guns, but factory is always best. So yeah, I like the Beryl. It's proven itself to me over the years. However, there are other options. A little cheaper is the Zastava out of Serbia M90. We've done a couple of videos on them, and a very nice gun too, and you'll save a couple of $100 over the Polish. It's not quite got the same military pedigree as the Beryl, but it's close, and it's from a quality factory. It too has an 18-inch barrel, has an adjustable gas system, has a slightly heavier receiver, but that would be kind of choice number 2 for me. There's also the Glil Ace, if you want to count that as an AK. And so we have options. We also did a video on the other Polish gun, the WBP Fox, or Jack, in 5.56, and it worked well for us, but I have less experience with it than I do this. And I'll be honest, I think the Beryl has a higher quality barrel in 5.56 versus the WBP. There's also the Pioneer gun. I have not fired one of their 5.56 offerings, so I cannot speak to that, but I will say it's the cheapest, so there's something to be said for that, I suppose. Interestingly, not really talking Arsenal, but we'll revisit those quite soon. But yeah, people ask, which 223 AK would I get? I would get this, and it does have the benefit of using standard ammo that your AR-15 and many other guns eat as well. Number 2. I'm new to AKs, or I have not been in the game for a long time. So, in 2023, what should I buy? J-Ro jacking off. At first, this seems to be the same old question as before, but upon reflection, there have been a couple of interesting changes in the market. But first, something that really hasn't changed. If I had to pick my first AK today, or if I'd been out of the game since, say, the 80s or 90s, and I just wanted something new and, good starter, I would still go with the WBP out of Poland. Specifically, I like the Jack. It has the side rail, but the traditional rear trunnion. The Fox version has the barrel style, which definitely has its purpose, but it does slightly restrict which buttstock you can use. And to my personal taste, it kind of slightly alters that classic AKM aesthetic that the Jack here has. This gun has proven very dependable, very reliable, and durable. It's built around a 16-inch cold hammer forged chrome-lined barrel made by FB Radom, and it has really nice laminate wood furniture out of Poland, and it's just proven well. It's in your classic 7.62x39, takes standard mags, standard furniture, standard bolt parts, standard fire control parts. It's about as standard as it gets. And for a first AK, or a sole AK, that's really where you want to go. However, it's a little spendy. Not insane, but a little bit. 12-ish, 1300. It's so hard to estimate prices because they change. If you want to step it down just a wee bit to the 1,900 price point, you could get a Zastava M70. I really like Zastavas. I just did a video on my Yugoslavian/Serbian collection. Excellent made guns. I think they're really Fox's favorite. The only reason I don't have a Z-PAP or an OPAP here is because they do take non-standard handguards, non-standard buttstock, and while the 1.5mm receiver with heavy-duty front trunnion is nice, it does make the gun a little heavy. And I've had more than a couple of customers complain, especially if they're wanting their children to join them shooting, that the PAPs maybe are a little chunkier than they like. The good news is, while they've always had cold hammer forged barrels, the newer Z-PAPs are also chrome lined, so great barrel. And it too is a little bit heavier, but it doesn't really seem to produce more accuracy. It's just a little heavier, a little beefier. And if you really are on a budget in the 700 range, maybe 800, I can't believe I'm saying this, but the Pioneer, the PAC. I have to be honest with everyone. I try to be objective, believe it or not. The Pioneer arms passed our torture test, which we extended out from 6 months to 9 months to try to really break it, and it survived. In fact, Fox decided to buy it afterwards. This is kind of a beater gun. It also could be because I refused to take it back after he put it in the poop bucket. But either way, yes, I have to admit, the Pioneer, maybe the third try is the charm, and they got it right, or maybe we just got a good one, I don't know. And I still don't think it's a perfect gun, and I still think if you can afford to get the Zastava or the WBP, you'll get a long-lived gun. But if you're on a budget, the Pioneer doesn't seem shabby. With that said, why did I say the field has changed? And shoots again.
Oh, reliable.
Because in the past, if you'd asked my top 3 or 4 picks for the AK to buy, Arsenal would have been in there. But in 2023, I can't really recommend them. Now, that doesn't mean they've become crap. They're still good. The problem is, A, their prices have really gone up. The standard milled, like Sam 7R, is $1,900 retail, give or take. The side folder, the SF, is $2,100. And I understand rising in prices, what hasn't, but we're in a slower economy. Other manufacturers have tried to reduce costs. Theirs are still going up. But probably more importantly, they haven't introduced anything new. Okay. They've done some new paint jobs here and there, new color furniture, maybe a new rail mount, but the core guns are the same. And all their stamped guns are gone, at least on the new market directly from Arsenal/K-Var. Now, to be fair, I was never a huge fan of their stamped guns, especially the fixed stock, the SLR 107R, but at least it was an option. But those are long gone. And anyway, before they left, they were running as much as a milled gun. So if your choice is between milled and stamped, milled was always Arsenal's thing. That said, if you really want a milled gun, Arsenal is the way to go. They're the milled kings for now. Although the WBP milleds, they're starting to kind of work their way up the list as well. So I find that interesting that I'm not putting Arsenal at the top of the list. Your mileage may vary. But my next thing is really weird. Since the late 90s, since I got into AKs, a Romanian gun imported by Century would have made the list, either number 1, number 2. The SAR 1s are nice, but the Wasser 10s were the king. These days, though, I don't think so. Their prices have gone up. They cost as much as a Zastava. They're more expensive than a Pioneer, or a Palmetto State for that matter. So they don't have the cheap thing. Also, the newer ones have some weird features. For example, some don't have chrome-lined barrels anymore. Many don't have bayonet lugs. And they're coming with pretty chintzy furniture. No longer military. That's been actually happening for a while. But the worst part is the QC. While I'm sure 90+% are great, I've heard of more QC failures in 2023 than in the preceding 3 or 4 years, maybe even 5 or 6 years combined. And I don't mean going onto forums. I actually don't go on a lot of forums these days. I'm talking real world. Either customers who have direct first-hand experience themselves tell me about their issues, or even more important, local here. I have a friend with a gun shop that stocked Wassers, and he had to just outright return more than a few. Their on-staff gunsmith, who actually does a lot of AK work for me, who can do really nice things, could not fix them. Again, that's not all of them, but considering the price has gone up, it shouldn't be happening. And when you just don't hear of those issues with Zastavas or WBPs or even Pioneers, again, I'm being honest, I just can't recommend a Wasser right now. Not until something changes. Either they get new features, because they're kind of suffering from the same thing Arsenal. It's not a whole lot of new with them. Or they lower their price, or they tighten up their QC. And I think they will. Wassers have gone through phases before. For example, in early 2009, they went through a bit of a downturn in quality, and that got fixed. But right now, no. But if you want a Wasser, I'm sure the majority out there are perfectly good. But hey, people ask my opinion, there you got it. It's probably worth about what you paid for it. 2 cents and a cup of coffee. And finally, number 1. What is your favorite AK? What is the best AK that you own? Hope I didn't screw it up. I did not screw it up.
Cowabunga.
I'm going to level with you. I hate this question. What's your favorite? What's the greatest? I don't think in that way. And I don't just mean with firearms. I mean anything. What's my favorite food? I honestly don't have one. What's my favorite music or band or even genre? I don't have one. Different days, even different hours. I don't know. It's a mood thing. And when you say what's the best, what's the greatest, in terms of what? Accuracy? Handling, what feels good in your hand? Quality? Rarity? I mean, you talking about what's the most valuable, worth collecting? You see what I'm saying? It's not something I can answer. And kind of a related question that wasn't worth its own entry, but people ask me, if you were me, would you sell this, a gun they own? Or if you were me, would you buy this? I'm not you. I can't tell you what you would do because I don't want people to make a mistake. I just try to tell them to analyze the pros and cons, what they would do. I can and I'm happy to give objective answers, try to give information, but when it comes to more subjective things, I'm sorry, I can't. Nor do I want to, because I would hate to misdirect someone. With that said, let's talk about my Hungarian SA85M here, because it was a project I completed this year, and that does something I really do like. Looking back at the AKs I own, the ones that are really special to me are the ones that I worked on, that I customized. My SAR2 comes to mind. Of course, my SAR1. By the way, I still felt like that was a great April Fool's joke. And this one too. In fact, this rifle, this post-ban SA85M, came in years ago, and I traded it to a friend because I just didn't have anything to do with it at the time. We had just moved, didn't have the money. But I always thought, wouldn't it be cool to make this into a fixed stock military clone of an AKM-63 or even AK-63? You can find the pre-ban underfolders, at least then, relatively easy, but the pre-ban fixed stock guns have always been few and far between. And the post-ban guns were the same good quality, just a little bit neutered. Well, I traded him back for this last year, and when I gave it to him, knew it was in the box. It was new old stock. And he'd shot it a bit, and even I'd borrowed it from him and shot it a bit. So it'd been shot a little bit, but I thought, let's do this. With the Hungarian parts kits recently available on the market, it's a great time to go ahead and convert this over, and I decided to go with the AKM-63. I always wanted one of these. And so, all I really had to do was replace the thumbhole stock with original furniture. You know, this got some interesting wear and tear to it, but it's nice, honestly. Pistol grip. Luckily, the AKM-63 handguard and gas tube fit right on, no fitting required. And luckily I actually had these pieces. I've been saving them for when I finally did this project. So all I really had to do was get the barrel threaded, 14x1 left hand. And I was just going to stop there. But you know, then I got to thinking, not having a way to have a cleaning rod under the barrel, I could stuff it under it, but there was nothing to retain it, so it was just going to go flying out when I shot it. Okay, so let's put on a front sight base with the handguard, fins to the cleaning rod fins to hold it. Well, I had a Hungarian gas block, which has a bayonet lug. That would help hold on the cleaning rod better and give me a bayonet lug. So in the end, I ended up replacing these two pieces. Actually, my gunsmith did it. I gave him the parts and basically sit there and gave moral support. But yeah, he was the same one that couldn't fix that Wasser 10. So threaded the barrel and then immediately put a muzzle nut on it. It's a Hungarian muzzle nut. Would it bug me if it wasn't Hungarian? No, but it's kind of fun that it is. And now I have a pretty much all Hungarian, all correct AKM-63. I'd wanted one for years. This project took a little time, but not a crazy amount of time. And that's what makes it fun. Not when they drag out and become a huge pain in the neck. A few months, just enough to make you appreciate it a little more. And as I said in that video clip, I was hoping I didn't screw it up, because whenever you replace a gas block, theoretically you could have the ports lined up wrong and not get enough gas in the system, because I knew it worked before. So I was rather relieved it worked well, and it's actually a lot of fun to shoot. Well, I like a pre-banned Chinese as much as anyone, or pre-banned anything, including, my Valmets, and I really do value them. It's guns like this that I customize and make my own, put time and effort into, that I really enjoy, that are among my favorites. Also, guns that I've shared with friends. The SAR-1's a great example. Pretty much every friend that's into shooting I've ever had over the last 25 years has shot that gun, and it's just a hoot. So, yeah, that's what I value personally. But it also matters to me if it's an authentic military replica. It doesn't have to be perfect one-to-one, but the closer it is, the happier it makes me. It also is nice if it's a smooth gun, decent trigger, but of course, above all, reliable. And I'll be honest, there's a certain satisfaction out of debanning guns like this, because I lived through the assault weapons ban, as I'm sure a lot of you did too. Being able to put a bayonet lug, pistol grips, folding stocks in some cases, it's just kind of giving the middle finger to all that, and that makes me happy. But what about you? What's your favorite one and why? That's kind of my reason. But, your mileage may vary, because this is a very subjective question. Oh, and, Arms of America let me buy one of those bluish buttstocks for this, and I just found a set of extra synthetic grips, so maybe one day I'll put synthetic furniture on this gun. Maybe I won't. I really do like the wood. I've just had a lot of fun with it, and I have a lot of fun with all my AKs, which is why I just cannot pick a favorite. Different days of the week, I have different favorites. But that's Misha for you. Let's wrap this up. Alrighty, guys. I hope that was helpful. I want to remind you again that I gave the best information that I had as of recording this video, but even before I publish it, it could very well be out of date. You never know about these things, so please take it with a grain of salt, and remember, just my opinion and my personal experiences. I would also say that some people do ask me about optics, what's the best scope to use. I'm blind, I don't know, although Fox might be able to do that, so you can ask him on the next live stream. Also, sometimes people ask me about specifics on markings, really how they look, that kind of thing. Remember, again, I've never actually seen markings as such, so if you're looking at pictures online, you probably know more than I do. And I try to be honest with you and admit when I know I don't know. With that, that's kind of where things are at the end of 2023 with the AK market, at least the civilian semi-automatic versions in the U.S. today. But what do you think? What do you disagree with? What do you agree with? What is your own experiences? Because I'd really like this to be a dialogue. Again, if you'd like to participate, there's live streams, there's also Patreon, and if you can't, that's understood. Liking, sharing, subscribing, that's all good as well. On behalf of J-Ro, Fox, and the rest, this is Misha. Catch you very soon, next time.